The sea, a vast and powerful force, has captivated humanity for millennia. But our planet's oceans are not static. They are in a constant state of flux. Sea level, the average height of the ocean's surface, has risen and fallen throughout Earth's history, leaving its mark on the land and its inhabitants. Understanding these changes is crucial, for they hold the key to our planet's past and future. Sea level changes can be global, affecting coastlines worldwide, or local, impacting specific regions. A rise in sea level can reshape continents, inundate low-lying areas, and alter ecosystems. Conversely, a fall can expose land bridges, create new coastal plains, and trigger shifts in plant and animal life. Throughout geological time, sea levels have fluctuated dramatically. During glacial periods, vast ice sheets locked up enormous volumes of water, causing sea levels to plummet. Conversely, interglacial periods, like the one we are currently experiencing, witness the melting of these ice sheets, leading to a rise in sea levels. These natural fluctuations have shaped our planet for millions of years. However, the rate of sea level rise we are witnessing today is unprecedented in human history. This rapid change is primarily driven by human activities, making it imperative to understand its causes and consequences. Sea level change is a complex interplay of various factors. These factors can be broadly categorized into three mechanisms: eustatic, isostatic, and tectonic. Each plays a distinct role in shaping the delicate balance between land and sea. Eustatic changes refer to global alterations in the volume of water in the oceans. These changes can be driven by variations in the amount of water stored in glaciers and ice caps, or by changes in the density of seawater due to temperature fluctuations. Imagine a bathtub filled with water. Adding or removing water from the tub represents a eustatic change. Isostatic changes, on the other hand, are localized adjustments in the Earth's crust in response to changes in weight distribution. Picture a wooden plank floating on water. Placing a heavy object on one end will cause that end to sink while the other rises. Similarly, the Earth's crust can be depressed by the weight of massive ice sheets or uplifted as the ice melts. Tectonic changes, the most dramatic of the three, involve the movement of Earth's tectonic plates. These plates, constantly shifting and colliding, can cause both uplift and subsidence of coastal regions. Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and the formation of mountain ranges can all contribute to tectonic sea level changes. Understanding these mechanisms is crucial for interpreting past sea level changes and predicting future trends. While eustatic changes affect the entire planet, isostatic and tectonic changes can cause significant regional variations in sea level. The current era, marked by a rapid rise in global temperatures, is witnessing a corresponding acceleration in sea level rise. This alarming trend is primarily driven by two key factors: thermal expansion of seawater and the melting of glaciers and ice caps. As the Earth's atmosphere warms due to the increasing concentration of greenhouse gases, the oceans absorb a significant portion of this excess heat. This absorption causes seawater to expand in volume, much like how a heated metal rod increases in length. This phenomenon, known as thermal expansion, is responsible for approximately half of the observed sea level rise over the past century. The other major contributor to sea level rise is the melting of glaciers and ice caps. These massive ice formations, primarily located in Greenland and Antarctica, hold colossal amounts of fresh water. As global temperatures rise, these ice giants are melting at an accelerated rate, releasing billions of tons of water into the oceans annually. The combined effect of thermal expansion and glacial meltwater is driving a steady increase in global sea levels. Satellite observations and tide gauge data confirm this alarming trend, indicating an average rise of about 3.2 millimeters per year over the past 2 decades. This rate is projected to accelerate further in the coming decades, posing a significant threat to coastal communities and ecosystems worldwide. Rising sea levels are transforming coastlines worldwide, leading to a cascade of impacts on coastal landforms and increasing the frequency and severity of coastal flooding. Erosion rates are accelerating. Low-lying areas are being inundated, and entire islands are at risk of disappearing beneath the waves. Coastal erosion, a natural process by which waves and currents wear away at the shoreline, is being exacerbated by rising sea levels. As the sea encroaches further inland, it erodes beaches, cliffs, and coastal infrastructure, threatening homes, businesses, and critical infrastructure. Low-lying coastal areas, often densely populated and economically important, are particularly vulnerable to sea level rise. Inundation from storm surges, high tides, and rising groundwater tables can cause widespread damage, displacement of communities, and loss of valuable land. Islands, especially low-lying coral atolls, face an existential threat from rising seas. As sea levels rise, these islands are becoming increasingly vulnerable to inundation, erosion, and saltwater intrusion, threatening their freshwater resources and the livelihoods of their inhabitants. The impacts of sea level rise on coastal landforms are far-reaching and pose significant challenges for coastal communities. Understanding these impacts is crucial for developing effective adaptation and mitigation strategies. The consequences of rising sea levels extend far beyond the physical reshaping of coastlines. As sea levels rise, coastal communities face a growing array of socioeconomic risks, threatening livelihoods, infrastructure, and cultural heritage. Coastal cities, often densely populated and economically vital, are particularly vulnerable. One of the most pressing risks is the increased frequency and severity of coastal flooding. Storm surges, high tides, and rising groundwater tables can inundate homes, businesses, and critical infrastructure, causing billions of dollars in damage and disrupting essential services. Sea level rise also exacerbates coastal erosion, threatening coastal properties, infrastructure, and tourism. As the sea encroaches further inland, it undermines foundations, collapses cliffs, and washes away beaches, leading to property damage, loss of land, and economic hardship. Saltwater intrusion, another consequence of rising sea levels, poses a significant threat to freshwater resources. As sea levels rise, saltwater can infiltrate coastal aquifers, contaminating drinking water supplies and harming agriculture. The socioeconomic impacts of sea level rise are complex and far-reaching. They disproportionately affect vulnerable communities, exacerbate existing inequalities, and pose significant challenges for sustainable development. The impacts of sea level rise extend beyond human settlements, profoundly affecting marine coastal ecosystems. Coral reefs, often called the rainforests of the sea, are among the most diverse and productive ecosystems on Earth, but they are highly vulnerable to the effects of climate change, including rising sea levels. Coral reefs are formed by tiny animals called polyps that secrete calcium carbonate skeletons. These skeletons accumulate over time, creating the complex three-dimensional structures we know as coral reefs. These ecosystems provide habitat for a staggering array of marine life, support fisheries, protect coastlines from erosion, and contribute to tourism. Rising sea levels pose a significant threat to coral reefs. As sea levels rise, corals may struggle to grow fast enough to keep up with the rising water, leading to what is known as coral drowning. This occurs when corals are submerged in deeper water, reducing the amount of sunlight they receive, which is essential for their survival. Furthermore, rising sea temperatures and ocean acidification, also driven by climate change, exacerbate the threats to coral reefs. Warmer waters can cause coral bleaching, a phenomenon where corals expel the symbiotic algae that provide them with food, leading to coral death. Ocean acidification, caused by the absorption of excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, makes it more difficult for corals to build their calcium carbonate skeletons, weakening their structure and making them more susceptible to damage. The decline of coral reefs has dire consequences for marine biodiversity, coastal protection, fisheries, and tourism. Protecting these valuable ecosystems requires urgent action to address climate change and mitigate its impacts. As the impacts of sea level rise become increasingly apparent, coastal communities and nations must adopt proactive strategies to adapt to these changes and mitigate further damage. These strategies can be broadly categorized into three approaches: protection, accommodation, and retreat. Protection involves constructing physical structures to defend coastal areas from the encroaching sea. Seawalls, dikes, levees, and beach nourishment projects can provide a temporary buffer against erosion and flooding, but they are often expensive to build and maintain. and they can have negative ecological impacts. Accommodation involves adapting to the changing coastline by modifying existing structures and practices. This can include elevating buildings, constructing floating structures, and implementing water-sensitive urban design. Accommodation strategies aim to coexist with rising sea levels rather than trying to hold them back entirely. Retreat, the most drastic option, involves moving people and infrastructure away from vulnerable coastal areas. While this can be a difficult and costly decision, it may become increasingly necessary in some areas as sea levels continue to rise. Managed retreat plans aim to facilitate a controlled and equitable relocation of communities and assets away from high-risk areas. The most effective approach to addressing sea level rise is likely to involve a combination of these strategies, tailored to the specific needs and vulnerabilities of each location. Early action is crucial, as delaying adaptation measures will only increase the costs and challenges in the future. The future of our oceans and coastlines hangs in the balance. Sea level rise, driven by human-induced climate change, is reshaping our planet at an alarming rate, threatening coastal communities, ecosystems, and global stability. The scientific evidence is clear. Urgent action is needed to address this global challenge. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions is paramount to slowing the rate of sea level rise. Transitioning to a low-carbon economy, investing in renewable energy sources, and improving energy efficiency are crucial steps to curb global warming and mitigate its impacts. Adaptation measures are equally important to address the unavoidable consequences of sea level rise that are already underway. Coastal communities must develop and implement comprehensive adaptation plans, incorporating a combination of protection, accommodation, and retreat strategies. International cooperation is essential to address this global challenge. Sharing knowledge, technology, and financial resources will be crucial to support vulnerable nations and communities in adapting to the impacts of sea level rise. The challenges posed by sea level rise are significant, but they are not insurmountable. By acting decisively and collaboratively, we can protect our coastlines, preserve marine ecosystems, and secure a sustainable future for generations to come. The time for action is now.